The purpose of this video is just to walk through some of the things that have recently been announced since July 22nd by the White House to kind of continue to assist homeowners with this transition off of these COVID forbearance plans. If you are a subscriber, welcome back. If not, make sure you subscribe and like the videos below. That really helps me get information out to everyone who needs help. So one of the things that's recently been announced is the extension around the ability to request a COVID forbearance. So if you are one of these people who kind of is struggling to make mortgage payments, maybe you're behind all due to COVID-19 and you have not gone on a forbearance plan yet, meaning you have not communicated with your bank and you have not asked for help, you can still request a forbearance plan good through the end of September of this year. So this does not apply to people who are already on a forbearance or who have maximized their extensions or anything like that. But if you're struggling and you're like, ooh, did I miss my opportunity to ask the bank to give me one of these breaks in payments, you can still request it through the end of September. So I would recommend, since we're like mid-August right now, that you call the bank and talk to them about your options. If you're going to go on one of these forbearance plans, make sure that you're super informed about what you're going on. Make sure you have a plan to transition off of it. There's a lot of helpful videos on this page about that, but basically you can still ask for a forbearance plan good through the end of September. So that's one thing that's been announced. The second thing that's been announced is that the FHA partial claim option is being streamlined. I just made another video about what streamlined basically means, so you can watch that video as well. But just as a quick reminder, a partial claim is FHA's way of saying, hey, if you're one of these homeowners who was on a COVID forbearance plan, at the end of the forbearance period, we will take the amount that you missed, meaning your arrears or what you didn't pay during the forbearance period. We will give you a partial claim, meaning we will take that amount, turn it into this thing called a partial claim that gets attached to the end of your loan so that you don't have to pay it until the maturity date, and then you just kind of continue making regular mortgage payments. That's what a partial claim generally means. It's the same type of thing that's called a deferral or a deferment under the Fannie Mae Freddie Mac guidelines. But basically what's been announced recently is that the partial claim process is going to be streamlined or should already be streamlined. And all that means is the documents to apply for an FHA partial claim are going to be less, if not non-existent, than what you normally would have to submit if you were applying for something like this. And this is working. I do have a couple clients right now that are able to apply for a partial claim without submitting documents. So the word streamlined really means the government is pushing the mortgage lenders to say, stop requiring financial documents or a financial packet or difficult documents from borrowers. Just give them these partial claims if they're asking for them. But that does mean that you still have to ask for them. Just because the process has been streamlined doesn't mean that you automatically get your partial claim. So you still have to pick up the phone, you still have to call the bank, you still have to talk to them about your options. But for the most part, if FHA is your investor, they should be able to just complete the partial claim kind of like over the phone, put a request in, and then give you one. Now, the way that you know that you have one is that you have to see it in writing. Don't trust any bank that tells you verbally that you've been approved for a partial claim, but they can't send you anything in writing. So be a good homeowner. Make sure, even if you hear that you're approved for a partial claim, that you ask for it back in writing. Something else that's being announced right now is this kind of HUD VA 25% principal and interest reduction that can come along with a loan modification. So I made a video about this. It's a standalone video called COVID-19 ALM, Advanced Loan Modification Option. You can watch more about that there, but basically, for people who qualify with an FHA loan who can become current on their mortgage within a 30-year term, there might be an option to receive a 25% reduction in principal and interest that you're making every month. And so what this change is trying to address is the situation where you are able to resume making your mortgage payments, your income has recovered, but it hasn't recovered in exactly the same way that it was before COVID. I don't know if I'm saying that clearly. Let me try that again. If you were making your mortgage payments comfortably before COVID and then your income went down, it is possible that now you're able to pay your mortgage payments because your income has gone back up, but maybe your income hasn't gone up as high as it was pre-COVID, and maybe for whatever reason, it's not set to go back up. You might need to pay a little bit less in your mortgage payment every month. The government is trying to say that they understand that, and they're trying to push the mortgage servicers to review for this option. So if you think something like this applies to you, make sure you're asking your bank about the COVID-19 25% principal and interest reduction. See what they say, and if you need help, make sure you reach out to an attorney. The last kind of change that's been implemented that I think is something important to look at is this extended term. So typically, if you were to get a loan modification, meaning if they take the amount that you're behind or the amount that you missed on your forbearance, they put it on the end of the loan, and then you resume making mortgage payments. Typically, these loans go for 30 years. So the maximum that they could write you a new loan for would go from 30 days from the day that you get your loan modification. If the bank is feeling like that's not enough, or if the arrears are too high, one of these COVID protections that has just come out is that some investors will be allowed to extend that term from 30 years out to 40 years. So if you think that that applies to you, if you think that you might be somebody who needs an extended term, ask your bank about it. They're not going to be able to answer that question immediately right off the bat. You probably are going to have to apply for a loan modification and then talk about it with them when you're kind of in review, but it is something to be aware of that you might be on the table for a 40-year term instead of a 30-year term. I'm going to keep trying to post like real life updates about how things are going, because I actually think that that's more important than just saying what the guidelines said, because mortgage servicers do not always implement guidelines in the way that we'd like them to. So check back here. I'll try to keep things as updated as possible, and let me know if you have any questions.